Hello, everyone. Well, as you can see, I'm back at the main office. Just got home at midnight last night from headquarters. It was a very successful trip out there. Kind of moved the ball forward on a few projects that I think everybody will enjoy for 2021. And I know 2020 is not over yet, but we have to start planning for next year. Then I got to thinking, and I did a lot of thinking flying. It's about all you can do. It's just a long flight, and I got to thinking about how we tend to want to share everything that we know and the different vehicles we have to share communication. And as I was, walking around the airport, watching people, and just, stalling for time until the next flight, um, you hear messages going on throughout the airport, reminding everybody not to leave their bag unattended. And then when you get on the plane, it's the same speech you hear every flight on how to use your seat belt and what to do in an emergency. All important things, but our mind tends to say, we've heard this before. What has changed? And I got to thinking about, well, what has changed in TOPS? From time to time, I hear from folks that nothing's changed, too much has changed, or we're not changing enough. And I feel there's things changing. I think there was changes thrust upon us because of the pandemic. So we're always in a state of flux. And I believe the issue is, how do we get the message down to every member? On this Facebook page, every Friday morning since the pandemic, I try to reach out to you folks, and sometimes I try to inspire, sometimes I just want to share information. But on this particular page, there's, in round numbers, I'm too tired to do math right now. It's about 8,000 TOPS members on this page. Typically, it gets around 50 comments, a lot of likes and loves and cares. That's great. But probably only about 1,000 views. So if I said something really profound, well, wait a minute, I always say profound things, but if I said something that was really important for this organization, it'd only be going out, well, I'm thinking to 8,000 people, but only 1,000 people might have seen it. It's important that we get to every member in TOPS. So I'm really concerned about how we want to communicate and share our messages, because all of you have got important information that everybody needs to hear as part of the whole equation. So think about this, where I automatically assume if somebody's been in TOPS for a few years, they know the inner workings of the rules, or how different things would affect their success or failure. And it always catches me off guard where some folks didn't know the big one right now, and it's an important one, is cops not being able to get the 15 weigh-ins because of no meeting. Nobody's fault, definitely not their fault, but there has always been a process in place that the weight recorder, the chapter leader, the coordinator could let the president know that for some important reason that this particular cops couldn't get their 15 weigh-ins, and then I can excuse it for 1 year. Well, as I've put out a memo to the coordinators, clearly this is an exceptional circumstance, and everything's going to be fine. But I incorrectly thought everybody knew that. So I think that's why I was pushing more about focusing more on communication and how do we get our information. Well, we have Tops News. Some of you haven't got it yet. Some of you can see it online. And you have to forgive me. I can never remember what's in each issue because I actually knew about this issue 4 months ago. And we're already working on the first issue for 2021. So sometimes I don't want to go like, spoiler alert, this is coming in the next couple of months. But this is a good one. And I talk about, my message about it's still, you still have enough time to goal for it. I really enjoy my conversations with Shannon as we put these messages together, because we still want to get that. It's another form of communicating with everybody. Now, we like to think that every member gets Tops News, but we know things get lost in the mail and things like that happen. So I always thought it's important for folks to use this in their chapter meetings to make sure everybody gets their information. To me, that's the ultimate way so every member can read it for themselves. So we can't automatically assume just by doing this morning that if I said that this is always a good one, that Tops colors will always be this red or maroon or whatever it looks like on your screen, and that's it. Only so many people would know it, and of course we're not gonna do that. So something that I tried a little while ago, and you may or may not know this depending on if you're a leader or a field staff member or you heard it talked about at the chapter, is over the past 2 months I've asked for various surveys to get information on what's been happening since March. I can make assumptions. I can make plans thinking based on those assumptions, but I might be all wet. So as I was looking at the data, that's where I heard this phrasing about, well, you said things were going to change, and I haven't seen change. Well, maybe it hasn't been communicated or hasn't gotten down to that level. But clearly, I think we all can agree that even though we had plans, and we did, we had a wonderful meeting with the service program administrators back in March, right after the spring board meeting. And we were getting ready to roll out some more team meetings and best practices in various parts of the country, because I know it's hard to get everybody together in one spot at a time. And we got hit with COVID. So some of these changes have been put on the shelf. It's frustrating. I wasn't happy about it. I'm sure it caused a lot of confusion amongst the members. So now it's reboot time, and that's the only way I can describe it, where we have to go forward with what we've learned over these few months and make changes. Because one thing that I found very concerning was sometimes we lose connection. And I know there's not going to be a perfect plan to keep everybody connected, but that's my goal. We've got to try to work on getting better at that. And so that's what we're doing, and that's where these surveys come from. It's not meant to get anybody in trouble. It's like, I'm data driven. You all know I'm a scientist, and it's like when I finally get a chance to read up on what's going on with various infections. I mean, there's other things out there that's coming this time of year out besides COVID. We're getting ready for the flu season, and I'm dealing with microbiology. So, you talk about different communication things. I mean, I haven't picked up a regular magazine in I don't know how long. But while I was at the airport, this caught my eye. Solving the mind-gut mystery. Probiotics. Probiotics is a big deal. I actually did a presentation at a laboratory conference 4 years ago, and now they're talking about the subject that I talked about 4 years ago. So I grabbed that, and I realized, look how much communication has changed. It's changed. People gets a lot of their information online or through the news. This Discover magazine, when I used to read it quite a bit, used to be 3 times the size. This thing now just has 4 articles in it, and I had to pay, what was it, $6. But I wanted to read that article, make sure they got it right. And I haven't got an issue of Scientific American in a long time. The point, folks, I'm trying to make is, yes, I'm data driven. I'm always going to do surveys, always going to try to come up with the perfect formula. And this article caught my eye, COVID Dreams, how the pandemic is changing the world's sleep. So even though we don't want change, we know we have to make change. And it's how we embrace the change that is going to help us get along. And this is where it comes down to our journey for a healthier lifestyle. Yes, we're going to try to make changes to help everybody. Yes, we want to make sure every TOPS member knows what's going on. And the reason is that we want to help them make the right changes for their own journey to a healthier lifestyle. And that is where the circle comes around. It's not because we just want to make change for the sake of making changes. It's not because if we think we've got a great idea and some folks hear about it, but then nothing happens. It's because something changed again. And I know I want to do a better job in 2021 to make sure that every TOPS member knows what's going on. And that is going to be a challenge because we've got to make sure that everything is lined up from top to bottom so that that member gets the information. And it's going to be from different avenues. Whether it's a field staff member going into the chapter or a workshop whenever we can meet again to explain what's going on, whether it's in TOPS News, whether it's in a live Facebook chat, or something that I've been wanting to do all along, and I know the service program administrators are frustrated along with me, is that we actually want to record mini webinars, maybe podcasts, to make them available and get them out someplace so that for that part of our membership who are technically involved, who doesn't want to read anything out of the magazine, they want to listen to it as they're driving back home to work. All these different forms of communication have to be vetted and get out there. So this is what happens when you have, it's only an hour difference between home and Milwaukee, but when you don't sleep and you've been up for 24 hours, I tend to run on and on and on, and I haven't gone this long on a Friday morning for quite a while. But I want you to know that, and I just saw Rhonda type a message in, repetition is a good thing. And I think that is probably the best way to go forward, is that we have to constantly say the message, because they do that on the airplane. Every time they tell me how to use my seatbelt. You'd think by now I know better, right? But I grabbed the wrong seatbelt. So, you got to hear these things. And that's just it. We have to constantly be reminded. I have to be constantly reminded of what you folks need. So don't be shy. Share your comments. Share your opinions and comments with your fellow TOPS members. You can say, hey, look, I just heard about this, or I read about that. We have to keep on communicating. And I just almost forgot one more thing. We also have a huge communication tool, and it's called our website, www.tops.org. And I would like to know from the folks who are listening to this message or watch it later or find out how many of you actually go on the website on a regular basis. Not to go grab a form, not because you're a leader or your field staff, but remember to go on to read the inspirational stories, to pull down something from Cranes for the for a program, or just read the updates. Or another form of communication that I'm just learning and I'm really excited about. Both Barb Katie and Maggie Torreson have been blogging for a while. Some of you read them, some of you don't. I've been blogging now. I'm really excited about it. That's one way some folks of you have asked about Astronaut Dan and trying to do the constellations on how to do a weight loss journey following the constellations. So I'm actually doing that out. So if you read all the blogs or copy them, you'll be able to have to do that program in your chapter. Again, another way of getting the information out. But that was asked a couple of years ago, and here we're at. But I know I'm going long. I'm sorry about that. But that's what I wanted to feature is how many of you let us know how not like I said, not a one-shot deal to get a form, but to regularly go to our website to get information, because all through the changes we post everything on the website. But some of us automatically assume just because it's there, it's heard. We can scream very, very loud, but if people aren't ready to listen or check, they're not going to hear anything. So thank you, Rhonda. Repetition is a good thing. I think I've said the same thing several times during this 17-minute presentation. I will now take a breath, and I'm going to probably take a nap also too. But thanks for listening to me this morning. Yes, we're going to get through this. We're going to find different ways to let every TOPS member know what's happening in our organization. It's the best organization in the world, and we'll see you next Friday.